the school board, but also to assisting with the teachers as far as bringing information and numbers to the table for negotiations. The process really simple. We will be starting next week. We have 7 meetings scheduled. We can add more to that if we need to. The outcome hopefully would be, after the 7 meetings, reviewing the contract, looking at percentage increases, looking at health insurance, looking at all the things that are put on the table. An agreement is made. That agreement is made with the team on the STA and these 2 school board members. The school board members have the responsibility to bring that back to the full board. The full board then must approve that contract at a public meeting. The STA team has to bring that back to all members of the STA association, and they have to vote upon that agreement. They have to approve that agreement as well. If both those things work and work well to a positive, that then appears in the March vote in front of the voters, and the voters have the final say on whether that contract gets approved or it does not get approved. Our first meeting, as I said, is next week. First meetings typically are goal setting and ground rules, and so it's typically a very quick meeting. And that's, I think, unless Kelly, you want to add anything to that? That's sort of a 30,000-foot quick snapshot of how the process works. If agreement was not reached, I think this is important because people always say, well, you're always going to make an agreement. No, you don't always walk out with an agreement. So if we were unable to come to an agreement after our 7, 8, 10, 12 meetings, and it's now coming to the point where we're ready to have the deliberative session or the budget hearing, and warrants need to be posted, we could go to what's called mediation, is bringing someone in to try to help mediate both sides. We could actually go to fact finding, which is just putting facts on the table and agreeing to those facts to try to bring something forward. If we're unable to do that at that time, we go to what's called an impasse. Impasse means that the current contract that's in place currently stays in place for the following year. It's called the Evergreen Clause. Actually, it was tried in Alton, New Hampshire. If that was the case, that current contract that we're in really right now would stay in place until the following year, and continue to stay in place until a new contract was agreed upon by both parties and then approved by the voters.
So, thinking beyond Sunapee, thank you. That was a good overview. Thinking beyond Sunapee, how many districts use this exactly the same or almost exactly the same collective bargaining?
I would say all. If you go onto the New Hampshire Public Employment Labor Relations Board, you can find a list, and they have to actually break it down from A to M and S through Z of all the contracts that have been negotiated throughout the state. And that's police, fire, school teachers, libraries, municipalities, they are all on there. They are held in closed session. They're designed in by law to be held in closed session. There have been some attempts to try to undo that unsuccessfully, and thankfully that has not been able to happen. And so we follow the laws, again, outlined by 273A that allows us to negotiate in closed session, as is the common practice or the most commonly used practice in the state of New Hampshire and, quite honestly, across the country.
Yeah, so the voices from 3 years ago about people wanting this in public and the Sunapee administration and board is unreasonable for not doing it in public are starting up again. So I just want to gently remind the community that this is how this works. It's followed and adhered to for all kinds of legal reasons that it needs to be done. And if you can say whatever you want about the Sunapee process, but you're saying it about the rest of New Hampshire. So I'm just throwing it out there because that wave of chatter is coming. I think it's helpful to be informative, and I think some reminder statements as we go through can help the whole community understand and be on the same page. Ed, you have done a lot of contract negotiating. Do you want to give a little bit of color on your background and your experience? Again, I was on it last year, and Carrie's going to be on it this year.
Sure. I've been a department head in a small community now as a chief for going on, I think I've hit 25 years as a police chief. I've had, of those years, 28 of them, I was a representative to go before the budget committee for a small department, then working for another agency, My range of budgets went from a tiny department of 100,000 a year to 1.5 million, where I had 24 employees. I sat on multiple boards as an employee, in charge of those committees, negotiating with boards of selectmen and people to cover things such as health benefits, vacations, co-pays, everything that goes along with being an employee. And also having to sit there and understand why committees were making cuts, trying to retain employees, trying to be competitive with other communities. The worst thing ever was to hire a police officer, for example, at $75,000 to train them, and then 2 years later they leave for $2 more an hour at a larger agency. So battling those type of things and understanding the cost of the training versus the pay now for many, many years has given me a good insight. Now sitting on the other side of the table representing the taxpayer, looking at my taxes, listening to the communities, talking about we're one of the largest budgets for a small school. How do we keep this budget down, look for other avenues to save money? And quite honestly, I want to see Sunapee School District stay here. I want to see us stay K through 12. And I don't want to see where we're taxing, the school itself is taxing itself out. So trying to find that happy medium on this end of the table now. Last year, 3 years ago, I found very interesting. I can't even tell you the amount of hours I've sat before boards and committees and negotiations and contracts, and it's just really interesting being on the other side now.
So for the community, that's who is representing the board in those negotiations. I'm looking forward to hearing back. You can comment if you want or not, but I just thought it'd be good sort of transition from the team that did it 3 years ago to the team doing it now. Do you want to add any comment?
No, I mean, this will be my first experience doing public role negotiations. My experience is all in private business, but I have a lot of experience. I've had very large global teams, built budgets, managed budgets. I work with financial people where we're held accountable to budgets and having to do similar things, but in a private setting as opposed to a public setting. So look forward to learning what I don't know at this point, but I'm not completely new to managing budgets either.
Yeah, I think you're being very humble from what I'm aware of your expertise globally. So those are representatives to have this. So I hope the community understands that we're lucky to have that level of expertise and experience. So I look forward to the process. It's quite a bit, and it's a major time commitment. And you're playing both major time commitment teams. So I'm not completely sure how you do it, but thank you for doing both. Last thing for information, ABC, the Advisory Budget Committee. We're gonna go in a little bit of a different direction. Quick summary is that the board is receptive to my ask that we reconsider that the select board chair and town manager, the school board chair, and the superintendent meet at least 3 times. Before, during, and towards the voting. Before budget season, during budget season, have other contact beyond that. Josh Trow and I have a very good working rapport, enjoy challenging each other in the best way to serve Sunapee, with us being some of the faces on both halves of your tax bill. I wanted selfishly as a voter to see this communication start. Town manager, select board chair, superintendent, and I will start those, and I'm hoping that's something that is beneficial, helps the community see more intentional open exchange beyond the relationships that we have and stay in touch, and we'll go forward from there. We're going to be looking for citizens to contribute to what is likely a 3-meeting cycle. So if they're interested, members of the community that want to raise their hand, or there's somebody that might be interested, We are looking for experience, insight, and character so that we can run productive meetings and have those conversations. You're going to put that up, the form up on the website?
Sure, so what I'll do is, I took the town volunteer interest form, I worked it up, I'll send it to you all tomorrow with some feedback instead of going through it tonight. I really reduced it from 4 pages to a page, just made it a lot simplify it. If you feel we're great on it, we'll post it on our website, we'll do a blast if folks are interested. Download the form, fill it out, send it back to the SAU office, and then we can bring that back to the board to determine the direction of the board like you go at that time.
Yeah, the main role is if you have expertise on budgets and insights, that's fantastic. It's really finding some voices to ask questions. Tell me more about this, why that, because the budget is very complicated. So it's a chance to learn more, some not too extreme time commitment. It's a chance to put your fingerprints on democracy with the school budget. Looking for, on a manifest, I'm looking for one motion for the AP manifest and one for the payroll manifest, and then we'll get on to public forum number 2. Can I get AP manifest motion, please?
I'll give you your motion to approve AP manifests 2022-01 for $104,744, 2022-02, $111,426.76, and 2022-03, $80,695.62.
Well said. Do I have a second as noted?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Okay. All in favor of approving the AP manifest as Scott so deftly stated, please say aye.
Aye.
You feeling warmed up and want to do another round?
Sure.
Thank you.
Payroll manifests to put forward for board approval. 2022-01, $34,618.57. 2022-02, $57,474.81. 2022-03, $251,138.71. And 2022-04, $385,001.88.
Well done. Do I have a second as noted?
I'll second.
Second. Hot second from Ed. Any comment, correction?
Just quick again, because I think there's a couple new faces. These are manifests that 2 board members have to sign, so in between meetings, at least 2 of us, and it's not always the same 2 of us, go to the SAU building, review the payroll manifest, put eyes on what is behind these numbers and sign off on it. And so the approval at these meetings is essentially a formal follow-up to that process.
Yep. A lot happens between the meetings. All in favor of approving payroll manifest as nicely noted by Scott, please say aye.
Aye.
All right. Public forum, this is a reminder that you have 3 minutes, and if things get personal or don't abide by the guidelines, I will politely say point of order. You have relinquished your time, and we'll move on to the next voice. Jan Betancourt, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. I have 4 quick comments. One, Jesse, I heard you say that you are interested in responding or having people email you. I do hope that that's turning over into the week. I have emailed the board often with a phone number or just an opportunity to chat, and my response rate is kind of low. I would really appreciate, I hope you are responding to other people, because you can't ask questions. So the question is, where do you get answers? That's one. You have chosen to adopt BEDH, which is the School Board Association policy. That is your decision to adopt that policy. That policy says that you do not have to answer questions, but that is not a state law that says that is your decision as a school board not to accept questions. There are other boards in town that do accept questions. A question about critical race theory. I don't know if you're aware, but both teachers' unions, the NEA and the AFT, have come out very strongly supporting critical race theory. And here we are entering into a negotiation. I know there are a lot of people who would like to hear how somebody stands on critical race theory as we get into the negotiation. What are the unions in Sunapee feeling about their unions coming out and saying we support critical race theory? My last comment is I hear your frustration, Andy, with the CIP that the townspeople haven't said yes to the projects. I think you need to listen to the taxpayers' concern for the rising cost per student. I think we're 30,000 plus this year per student. I think that's what taxpayers are concerned about. Enrollment is declining and budgets are going up, and proficiency rating is average at 75% proficiency. That cost per student is not sustainable. So what are you, I hope during negotiations, will ask some real tough questions. How can we, our salaries go up and up and up, our proportion of the percentage of the budget that is for the children is not the largest part. I hope you will consider a decline in the staffing. We have too many classes, small classes at the high school.
You have 15 seconds.
I think that's something you need to consider. I appreciate you listening. Thank you.
Thank you. John Augustine in front row.
The discussion about the contract negotiations, I did not hear the length of the term being required in public. So it would be helpful to know either tonight or in the future whether it has to be a 3-year contract. It seems like traditionally in some it has, but if that's not a requirement, I think it might be worthwhile to do just a 1-year contract and let the situation with the infrastructure and the enrollment and other fundraising opportunities become more clear, as well as how the vote is going to unfold. Let's do a 1-year contract. You're not required to do 3 separately. So Chairman Tyler mentioned about the meetings between the school board chairman, the selectman chairman, the superintendent, town manager. Are those going to be public? You're not willing to answer the question tonight because you're going to answer questions. I think it would be helpful to let the folks know, let the public know, whether these meetings are going to be in public, or they can at least watch. They're not going to be in public, but there are going to be minutes taken that can be reviewed. I think it's a step backwards to do meetings not in public, especially amongst the leadership of the town. And then on the infrastructure, I think the biggest thing you have to explain to people is why are 2 school buildings needed for 400 students? If you can make that argument, why we need 2 buildings for 400 students, then you will get a passing vote, regardless of the dollar. Not regardless, but it will be less than that. You just don't understand why if there's 400 students, we need 2 buildings, 2 meeting systems, things like that. So I would encourage you to think about that argument, rather than spending a lot of time saying, this fact is incorrect, this is misinformation, oh, we got a yellow flyer here, red flyer. Just explain to people why we need 2 buildings with the annual operating cost and the administrative overhead. And there's 400 students. And finally, every year the vote goes no, the price gets cheaper, gets lower. Started out as $25 million, then it went to 10.6. I heard tonight that we're going to hear in October one that's lower than 10.6. More than likely. So, if people know they vote no, and there's no impact on the day-to-day student experience, it's the same experience they've had for the last 20 years, and it gets lower, it's not rational for people to vote no, in my opinion.
You have 15 seconds. All right. Other voices? Mike Axton. When I tap my watch, that means 15 seconds.
Two things. Glass half full, half empty. One thing you gotta look at it now is that unless Winnisquam goes for the next time the financial money, we're number one. Because Allentown did get their money. They got their 30%. They put the warrant article up stating that if we get 30%, you support us building a new school. Somebody's never done that. They've never put it out there saying, will you support us building a new school if we get 30% funding from the state or wherever this one is coming from? That is a key. We heard last year how we have the potential to get 30%. Put it in writing. If we get it, do you support, and we'll get your answer. Here's other comments. I'll ask, hopefully we get some answers tonight rather than just doing the comments. The citizens deserve veterans. The SAU website, Russ, and the school board, I've got a lot of issues with it. It's not just me. The agenda was supposed to be up Monday. When I called, she put Atkins, Atkins said it's up. I said, I can't find it. What am I doing for? She said, go to the calendar, click on this. There it is. I said, okay. I said, can you do it while I'm doing it? She said, oh, you're right. It's not up. I said, no, it's not up. So there's an issue with that going on. Your school calendar, you have it. It says upcoming events. It says school calendar. That's great on the website. You can see it. Why can't we get the CIP to put that in there too? Upcoming CIP meeting. You don't have that. What you have is, if you go to CIP, it says, come to a meeting, hit school calendar, and find out who it is. There's nothing on the school calendars when they are. The CIP webpage states attending these meetings are posted on the website. They're not. I don't understand why the minutes of the CIP are put under the minutes of the CIP. The July and the August minutes are under the school board minutes. So trying to find these things out, it's like, all right, where am I looking for this? And that's part of the frustration I think people are having. 2 years ago, you could find all this information. You guys used to send stuff out, get us to come to these meetings. And I signed up for it to get an email when you're doing it. That's after that big building up, and we didn't get it. Looking at the top 5 ranking schools, that puts us back to 1. Would Sunday School Board ever consider putting the warrant article up if we get this federal money? Do you support it?
You're at time.
Huh?
You're at time.
Okay. Can you give me 2 more seconds since you're not answering questions?
There is no point in rules if we don't follow them. So just to clarify for anybody who's new here, part of public comment and why we have to run it this way in Sunapee is that in the past, people have made vicious personal attacks. We've tried to do small town Q&A. People shift it to things where the district and the board become liable. So unfortunately, much to my incredible frustration after years of being on the board, this is how we have to run them. And there's a lot of legal costs to the taxpayer that led to having this public comment policy and being able to continue it after some abhorrent behavior that put us at risk from lawsuits, both as a district and lawsuits from the people attacked in the public meeting. So there is a bit of a background to it. So unless there's another voice, a different voice to be heard, did you want to say anything? I wasn't sure if you were okay. So.
I would say something. I just have, I know you can't respond, but I just want to make a comment on the school board situation, and I hope that you don't take too much time making a decision about having 2 school nurses in the district instead of 1. And I find it hard to be a professional and just walk away from a position as opposed to a letter of resignation. And I hope and believe that a professional would receive constructive criticism as to why one school nurse is not appropriate for this district, and hopefully the board will take that into consideration and not wait too long before vocation.
And just to follow the rules, your name and address,
My name
please.
is Amy Hallman, 20 Melody.
Okay. Other voices we've already heard. Did you want to speak? Please introduce yourself. And I'm sorry with the rain and the gym situation, nice and loud.
Samantha Hano from Lower Main Street. I just wanted to share that as a parent that did attend the open house for the elementary school, I just want to
applaud all of the effort. I think everything went amazingly well. I think that having a connection to the school and all of the teachers was amazing. I think the connections to the Abbott Library and the rec and everything, it was really well put together. It was fun. It was a scavenger hunt where kids had to have everything stamped, so it got you to go around to everything. And I can't say how much it meant to us to be able to see everyone, to see their faces and to see their expressions. The masks were optional. It meant a lot to be able to see where our kids are going to be as much time as they spend away from us, and I think that you did a really good job with that, so thank you.
All right, that brings public comment to a close. I appreciate people being, did you put your hand up? Nice and loud, please.
547 North Road. I just wanted to say, talking about the enrollment in the bubble coming, I'm actually coaching the preschool kindergarten. We're up to 40 kids signed up for preschool kindergarten soccer, so that bubble is a real thing.
Well, that's
Thanks.
2 or 3 grades.
It's good to hear from a variety of voices, going towards showing active listening, going towards agenda items for next meeting. I think we will start with enrollment. It's traditionally in the October meeting. We'll get right into that. Whether people year after year voice that they don't like NESDEC, which is the service that we use, or not, we are going to talk about their most recent projections, bubble class, what may be following that, those other things. But how many kids do we have in our schools? Because it'll likely change if some show up today, and some might be missing that are going to show up. So the 415-ish number is probably going to fluctuate. So it's officially, because it has to go to the state. We can have a nurse update. So the update today was why somebody may or may not have left isn't something we absolutely could not talk about in public. There are more layers to that potential story. So leaving this meeting, we have the update that Superintendent Holden gave with the sub-nurses. We can talk more about that after. After tonight, as always, the board, just like the community, can ask questions to the superintendent and have those dialogues. So please, everybody, do that. We get more about the negotiation status, we can talk a little bit more about the town manager and super, give a little more detail, public, non-public, or otherwise, with those meetings. And so there is a fair amount of mechanics that we need to do, but the main part of that meeting, so everyone plan on another hour longer than this one, likely, is to talk about what the capital improvement subcommittee brings to us and wants to do. That's the main meat of the meeting. That'll be the longest discussion. So no request to go into non-public. I'm looking for a motion to adjourn at 7:28.
I make a motion to adjourn at 7:28.
It's always the fastest second. Carrie already had it formed. Second from Carrie. All in favor, say aye. Good night.
Aye.
Hope you're out, brought a raincoat. Thanks for being here for the folks that came out.
I forgot my